Hello everybody, and welcome to another OR guitar tutorial. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down my arrangement of If I Die Young by the band Perry. And I do consider this to be like an intermediate to advanced level arrangement. So I'm going to have tabs on screen, but I'm not going to be walking through every single note. I'm going to do my best to more of just give you some insight and tips into how to play this arrangement. So the first things first, whenever I'm learning a new song, the first step that I like to take is just to listen to the song on repeat. And this is especially true for fingerstyle guitar because we don't have the lyrics to orient ourselves, right? We just have to know the melody by heart. And so, by the same token, I'd also recommend listening to my arrangement specifically of this song and, just get it to the point where you kind of have the entire song mapped out in your head and you can hear it playing in your ears. Now, if you've done that, then you probably realize that it's just the same 4-chord progression pretty much looped for the entire song. And that is A, E, B, and C sharp minor. In other words, it's a 4-1-5-6 in the key of E major. Now, as far as the melody goes, I like to think of this song in sections. So here are all of the sections on screen that I've kind of defined the song to fall into, and highlighted are the sections where I've added percussion into the arrangement. And one final note before we begin, while the tabs are going to be on screen as we play and walk through this arrangement, you can also download them and print them if you'd like by purchasing them using the link in the description, and that also helps the channel out. So with that being said, let's get on to the tutorial, starting with the first chorus. Now, the first thing that you need to be aware of is that we actually start playing on the third beat of the first bar. It's actually right before the third beat, but this slide from fret 5 to 9 should end on beat 3. So like basically you hit the 9th fret on beat 3. So if we're playing with the metronome, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then we play open 1. And now we're playing this kind of open version of the E major shaped bar chord for our A, right? And this is where we hit the beginning of bar 2. So I'm just going to be playing those 3 strings. And then the melody continues. So I like to fill in kind of some more harmony by just playing 5-4. And then we play. So that's 7 up to 9, back to 7, back to 5. And I just like to play legato with that. So just sliding and pulling off. And now we play the beginning of bar 3, so that's going to E major. So I'm really just playing the low E to kind of outline that chord. And then the melody goes 6-4 on the G string. And then from here, we're going to slide all the way up to the 9th fret again. And then once again, pull off to the 7th fret. And then we're going to play that separately. And now we get to our third chord of the progression, which is our B major. And now I'm also going to be playing the same kind of open version of the E major shaped bar chord for this one. So it just looks like this, right? It's basically just a major triad. And I'm also going to throw in the 11th, which is the open E. So here I play it as 4, 1, 3, and then I play 2 and hammer onto the 9th fret, right? That's part of the melody. Lastly, we're going to go to the 10th fret before landing on the C sharp minor, and I'm actually playing a C sharp minor 7 by just barring all of the 9th fret and kind of doing a finger roll from the 6, kind of play that separately, and then what is that, 4, 3, 2, okay? So altogether what we have, if we start from the beginning, we have a slide, and that's on beat 3, right? Here's our E. Now we're going to the B at 11. And here I'd like to mute the low E, right? So every time we change bars, then I want to mute the previously ringing bass notes because otherwise it gets a little bit muddy. So even like for Here's our A. Now I'm going to mute it. Now we have our E. Now I'm going to mute the E as I play the B. Now I mute the B as I go to the C sharp minor 7. So you see every single time I just want to get a nice crisp sound by muting whatever's ringing out, and that way I can allow the new bass note to kind of fill the space. Okay, so we have this. So I play the 9th fret twice of the B string, and then I do this. So kind of a slide from 12 to 11 and then pull off. You'll see that there's a lot of slides and pull offs in this arrangement. So we have, now we're back to A, and here we have pull off from 11 to 9, and then just 9, 9, 9 on the G and B strings respectively. And here I like to add some vibrato to kind of like fill the space a little bit more because it's a little bit empty. So I think I do that in the arrangement. And then we have, so now we're back to the E chord, right? So we mute our A, we have E, right? So I'm just keeping those fingers there and hammering on with the ring finger to the 10th fret of the B and back. And now we're back to our B major chord. So we have 7th fret of the B string. And now I just have my regular, like traditional E-shaped B major chord, bar chord, excuse me. And then once again, there's that hammer on from 7 to 9. And now I'm just playing strings 6, 4, and 3 for my C sharp minor 7. And here it's very staccato. So it's like I play it twice. The first one is very short, and I'm achieving that by just very briefly putting my fingers, like putting the pressure on the strings and then pulling off, right? And the second one's a little bit longer. And I like to slide that down into what is going to be the next section, which is our A. So, okay, so I want to take a moment to just recap everything that we've done so far and play it together along with a metronome. Okay, so it's going to be 4 times before starting, and then we only come in on the 3rd beat, right? So let's hear what that sounds like. So that now concludes the first section. Now we're on to the second section, which I've labeled OO due to the lyrics in this section. So here's where the instrument actually comes in the song. They have like a guitar, and we're going to be hammering on from like an A sus2 to a regular A chord. So I like to play it this way with my pinky on the bottom. And then once again, just kind of filling the space with those extra notes in there. And now I'm going to slide up to the 9th fret, but it's not like a strong destination that I'm trying to get to the 9th fret. It's more of sliding and releasing pressure as I do so. So it's, right, it kind of like fades away. And then we go to the 5th fret. All right, and now we're into our E major chord. And here, once again, I just start with the bass note, pretty much the beginning of every bar. And then filling the space. And then the melody goes open is on the 2nd string, right? And then back to open. So altogether, this kind of up, O part. And you notice those are both like very staccato, right? Now we have the section that I like to call the B7 lick. And so it starts up here with like our traditional just bar chord shape, right? For our B major. I play those 3 strings, and now I play basically like a D sus4 chord shape. So I'm actually playing a D sus4 and then pulling off, right? So that's like, and then where I'm playing 11 to 12 on the A string, and that gives it the dominant 7 sound, right? Because I have the A there, which is the dominant 7 of my B major. So this 12 actually comes in on the 1st beat of the next bar. And here is the beginning of verse 1. Okay, so altogether what we have for this O part. Okay, and now we play open. And I actually made a mistake when I was recording the song. The original arrangement, I just had open to 4th fret, but I accidentally played the 2nd fret, so I quickly hammered on. So that's actually what I have in the tabs, and that's how I played it in the cover. You can do either way. And then we go to 2nd fret, and now the percussion starts. So the drums basically kick in, right? And the drum beat for this song is... right, so it's basically like 2 like kicks and then a snare. And so this basically continues throughout most of the rest of the song. There's a small section where it kind of fades out, but this is going to be ongoing. Okay, so I want to basically just play for you the beat and then kind of throw in some of the actual melody so you can hear how it's literally just for the entire thing, right? Right, so that was the song, but you see that it's just this beat the entire time, right? So you can either start with just no percussion if you need, if it's a little bit too difficult, or you can also just work on just starting with percussion and then just get that down so good that it becomes like second nature, and then you can focus on kind of adding the melody and the chords and everything on top, okay? But I'm not going to walk through the percussion for the rest of the song because it's going to be just the same exact pattern the entire time. Okay, so I think you can figure that out. On the tabs, the bass kick, this kind of like wrist thump, is denoted with just a circle above the standard notation. And then the snare is just some X's on the strings. And those are the strings that I'm ideally aiming for when I'm hitting them. Okay, so starting this next bar, we have a pull off from the 2nd to open along with the open A string. So, and then I play basically this like A sus2 kind of thing, right? And then I'm slapping and slide 2/4 to open. And now next bar, we're starting on the E major. And it's a similar idea. Now I'm just pulling off on the B string from to the open. And then the second drum beat happens kind of in the offbeat between notes. Same exact thing as before. And now we have a A major shaped bar chord for our B major. Once again, the second drum beat just kind of happens in the offbeat. This time I'm just hammering on. And here I kind of added a ghost note in the tab. You see on the 4th fret of the 3rd string. So I'm kind of playing that. And then we play the 5th fret of the high E, quickly followed by the C sharp minor root, which would be just the C sharp on the 4th fret. And then the drum beat continues, right? And here I have this kind of... so it's like a finger roll, but the second note is basically a ghost note because it's being muted by this index. Next. Okay, so here I'm basically just playing around with this 4th fret before going to the E major chord. So like with these tabs, you don't have to follow them to a T, right? Like this is just kind of the way that I happened to play it when I was recording it, but you know, anytime I'm going to play this song, it might be a little bit different. That's why it's so important though to listen beforehand to the song and just really get the whole melody ingrained in your soul, so that way when you go to play it, like it just comes out, right? Okay, so basically just pulling off 4 to 2 and then 2 open, and then 2 open on the B string as well. And then just kind of sitting on the B major chord as well. Right? Nothing special there, just kind of highlighting the second fret of the high E. And then we're going to our C sharp minor. And here, really all I'm doing is just placing my ring finger on the 4th fret of the A. And that's just giving me the bass note there. And then the only other string I'm playing is the high E for the most part. Right, so here, 2. 2 again, then a bass. And I actually forgot to play to place the slap. Should be on that 2 after the hammer on from 2 to 4. Then the 2nd fret of the high E, there's a slap. And then we play, you could play just open high E, but I like to play the 5th fret of the B instead. Okay, so that is it for verse 1. So I want to play all of that. We're actually going to start at the B7 lick. So we'll start here. Okay, and we're going to play along to metronome. So you notice even then, like I played it a little bit different from the tabs because at the end of the day, you know, I'm just trying to get a full sound with the percussion, with the chords, and with the general melody, right? Like you can change up the timing a little bit, the rhythm, and get some cool ideas in there. But at the end of the day, you know, you just do whatever sounds best to you. So now we have the verse ending, right? This is the next section. And this repeats a lot. And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to kind of break it up into sections, because since it repeats so much, then you can kind of learn it once and then just, you know, fill it in wherever it occurs. So here we have, first I just start with a bass thump along with the open A, and this gives the, you know, A major sound. And then we have another thump with nothing, and now I have like kind of a lazy finger roll on this. Was it like an A6 or something? And then hammer on to the 4th fret. So it's, and that's followed by a slap that silences it all. It cuts off the sound. And then I play the open high E. So, and now we go to E major. So same pattern, right? Now I'm just playing the open low E and then 2 thumps. And now once again, just filling the space with this 1st fret of the G string. And now I'm going to slap as I slide from 2 to 4. And here I'm already pulling out the B major chord, right? Once again, just kind of like staying on this chord and highlighting the 2nd fret. Because in this song, I think she just holds this note. Obviously especially like on a classical guitar or a nylon string guitar, it's hard to sustain that one note for, you know, the 2 bars or whatever that she does. So I just kind of play it multiple times. But you can choose, you can also just try to sustain that. And then from there, we go to the C sharp minor once again, which I'm just playing by highlighting the space note. And here I'm going to pull off from 2 to open. You can also do it on the B string as well, like I have in the tabs, either one. And then I follow it by plucking the high E string. Right, and now I'm back around to A, and this time I go, right, so once again there's that kind of same like hammer on from 2 to 4 with the A chord. But now I'm going to pull off from 2 to open. And now I'm playing the 2nd fret of the B. I threw in a ghost note there. You can play that, you don't have to. Kind of adds another sense of that kind of rhythmic feel. And now I'm letting that ring out. And as the next bar comes around, we play the open low E and then pull off. Right? Okay, and then here, once again, just filling the space. Slapping and hammering on from open to 2nd. You can hammer on, you don't have to. I don't have a hammer on there. And then back to open before going into the B7 lick once again. Okay, so let's just play that verse ending. So that's going to start on there. And we're going to play with the metronome again. next we're going to go into the B7 lick again, and it's going to be the exact same as the first time we played it, right? So you come up here. All right, nothing new there. And now we go into the second chorus. The second chorus is very similar to the first chorus. The main difference is that now we have percussion. So we're going to start with open, and then 4, and pull off to open. Okay, and now, if you recall, we come to this A chord. But this time, we're going to have some percussion on it. So it's going to be 1 hit, along with, you know, plucking the strings, and then 1 in the silence. And now we're going to do the... Except for this time, there is like some harmony going on. And so I just added the D string. We're just playing parallel, like the same frets. So it's going to be 7, up to 9, back to 7. And then when I pull off, I'm just pulling off on the B string. Don't worry about the D string. Okay? So you notice I also slap here to start that. And then here we usually have just this for our E, but this time we're going to add some harmony as well. So we have 7 to 6 on the D string, along with, that's 6 to 4. Okay, so it sounds like that. And once again, you know, we have the percussion. And then we have, right, just sliding up to 7, 9, 7, 5. So that's a little bit different than the first chorus. And then we go to our E-shaped B major bar chord. Right, that's pretty similar. Just 2 bass thumps, slap, and then hammering on 7 to 9 on the B string. Up to 10. Back to that C sharp minor 7, same as before. Same as before. This is all the same. We're adding the percussion, so that's the only difference. But if you get it down good enough without the percussion, it should be pretty easy to get the percussion in once you just kind of get the feel for it. It's just right. And starting the next bar, we're now back to the E. Same exact thing. This is all the same. Now the only difference here is instead of just sliding down, we're actually going to do something a little bit different. As soon as we play that, we're going to slide up to the 13th fret on the G string. And now I'm doing kind of like a strum almost, and just muting all these lower strings, except for the G. And now I'm sliding down to the 11th and then pulling off to the 9th. So it's... And then I'm plucking the 11th, the D string, and pulling off to the 9th. So, and now immediately we're going to be starting the next verse. But before we go into that, I want to recap this second chorus. Let's try it out. Now we have the verse ending once again. So that starts with, right, our open A, that kind of lazy hammer-on thing, and then the quick slap, which silences it all, and then open. So, and then to E, right, and now we're back to our B. That's all the same as the last verse ending. And then the second time around, we have our A again. Now, last time we did up to the B7 lick, right? But this time, we're actually going to do, right, it's a slide from 2 to 4 with that E, and then to the B major, and once again, highlighting that second fret of the high E. And then here, it's just 2 hits with the bass, and then we're going to slide up for the B7 lick, okay? So basically just a half a bar of the B there, and then we're up to the B7, and that takes us to the beginning of verse 2. So let's go to the beginning of the verse ending and play all the way through the B7 lick. Okay, see what that sounds like. Okay, now we have the second verse. This one's a little bit different, but I really like it. So we start off with open on the high E, and then we play 2 and hammer on, pull off, right? Next, we play the 5th fret of the B, and we can also play just the open high E, right? Same note, but I prefer this one because now we can pull off to the 2nd fret, which is the next note we play, right? And after that, we actually hammer back on. Open to 2nd on the high E. And then once again, we're doing this thing where we're letting this ring through to the beginning of the next bar where the E major chord starts. And then we're going to pluck again, pull off, or just play it open. And then we're going to go 2 to open on the B string. And then here, this is just like a little thing that I added in. It's not necessary, but it just kind of fills the space. So we're going to play 4 on the B string and then the open high E. I really like that semitone dissonance. So you can decide whether you want to use that before going into the B chord, which we only actually need these 2. Actually, we'll use these 3. And then we're going to slide up to the 5th fret of the B string at the very end. Followed by, now the beginning of the next bar is the C sharp minor, right? So as soon as we slide up, then we also slide up to the 4th fret of the A. We're going to slide 5 to 7, and then pull off 7 to 5, and then I play 5 one more time. Okay, so I know that was kind of complicated. Let's start back at the beginning of the verse. So we start. Okay, that's what it should sound like at full tempo. Now we're back around to the A, and so here we're gonna play. It's basically just, once again, kind of filling the space, and this is with like basically an A major 7 chord shape here. I have 2 ghost notes on there on the tab, on the G and B strings of the 2nd fret respectively. And then once again, this 4th fret is kind of bleeding into the bar with our E major. We're doing that same thing where it's just kind of pulling off 4 to 2. And then we're allowing that to just kind of continue to cascade down to open. Now I'm slapping open and then 2 to open on the B string. So now we're going to our A-shaped B chord. Once again, not much happening here. Just pretty much just filling the space before going to the C sharp minor. And here we have 2nd fret hammering on. And now I'm going to slap as I go to the 5th fret. Right, so that's kind of the first time we went to the 5th fret on the C sharp minor. It sounds really nice in my opinion. Now here, I really like to start to kind of up the energy and the dynamics. And so for that part, it's going to be open A, and then we're going to pull off. Right, so it's 4, 2, open, open by itself, and then 2 open on the B string. So, right, same percussive pattern as before, and then we do the same exact thing but with the E chord. Right, so here I really like to up the dynamics because we just kind of play the, and then here it kind of softens back up, right? So we go back to this this B major, This is basically the same pattern that we played a little while ago, right? So basically just kind of highlighting that 4th fret of the B before sliding up, and then immediately followed by the C sharp on the A. This time, instead of ending it like that, we're going to end, right? So we have the 7th fret, and then we're going to play this barred 4th fret of the high E, and then the 5th fret of the B string. And I could have played like that, but then I wouldn't get the dissonance, or I guess the harmony of those two kind of ringing out together. So I chose to play it on the 5th fret of the B string instead, right? And that concludes this verse 2. So let's go back to the very top. I want to start with the beginning of verse 2 and just play through this entire thing. And then we begin another verse ending segment. So it's all the same. That is all the same. And now here we begin the instrumental section. So instead of what we would do before, now we're going to slide up to the 9th fret on the high E, and then come into our E-shaped B major bar chord, right? So we go directly from the E. And now here I'm just kind of filling the space before playing the 11th fret. And then I'm going to play 9, 11, and end on the 12. This kind of actually starts the next section. But I like kind of building all this up. And now here we come soft, right? And it kind of like dissolves all that tension I was building. Another thing that I wanted to mention is a lot of times I do this accidentally, but I end up hammering on from the 7th to 8th on the G string as I'm kind of like filling out the shape. And it creates kind of a bluesy sound. So if you like, you can take that and use it intentionally or not. But that's just something that I do. And now we are back around to our A major, right? So here we kind of skipped the C sharp minor, and we're just back to our A major. And we play that with the 12th fret. And now we begin the harmonics, the harmonic section. This might be my favorite section of the song. So I start by playing this twice. And now I play the natural harmonic on the 12th fret of the open E. Now I play, and I'm going to just refer to all of the frets as like from the distance from the nut, but they're all artificial harmonics, right? So if you don't know how to play an artificial harmonic, it's the same thing as a natural harmonic, only instead of playing it with 2 different hands, you're just playing it with 1 hand. So usually your index finger is going to be the one that's kind of doing the release on the 12th fret, and then your either ring or pinky or middle, whatever, something behind that finger is going to be doing the plucking, right? So as long as you're 12 frets up from wherever you're fretting, now we're not stuck just on the 12th fret, right? We can play other frets. But what I'm going to be referring to is just the frets up from the nut and not the actual fret I'm playing the natural harmonic on, okay? So we have open, 2nd, and then 4th fret, and here we play the low E. Right, you can mute that A string so it's not muddying up the sound. And then we follow that with 4, 2, open, 2 again, and now that is played simultaneously with the 2nd fret of A string. So that's our B note. And now we play 2, 4, 2, open. And then we play, now we're up to the C sharp minor, right? So 2, open, 2, 2 open on the high E and the B respectively. Okay, and then we're going to go back around to the A. Before we do that, I want to just play this segment starting from the E bar, okay? Starting from there. So I actually went a little bit ahead there. Sorry for that kind of out of tune sound. That's just the way Guitar Pro happens to make the artificial harmonic sounds. So we get done with that 2 open, 2 open. And now we're gonna play 4, 2 open. And then we start back around with the A chord. Open A along with open harmonic on the high E. And then we play just the harmonic. That's the same 2 open, 2 open, but this time the bass note comes on the open high E. And then lastly, so now 4, 2 open, then 2 along with the second fret of the A. And now we play 2, 4, 2 open. And that's the end of the harmonics. Okay. Now to end this kind of instrumental section, we have the C sharp minor. So now we're playing 4 and 2 respectively. And we're going to hammer onto the 4th fret and then tap on the 7th fret of the high E. And then go in reverse. So I'm pulling off. And then I'm going to play the open A. Okay. And then we're going to go into the beginning of verse 3. But before we do that, I want to start back at the very beginning of this entire instrumental section. We're going to start at the same part on the E and just try to play our whole way through this. Okay, awesome job. One thing that I want to add before we move away from this section is it sounds really nice to try to sustain your notes when we're playing these harmonics, right? Whether that's the bass note or the actual harmonics themselves. The only thing to be careful of is accidentally playing some strings that can cause dissonance. And that can happen, like say we're playing like E, right? And then we just take our finger off of that G. And it creates the minor third of the E major, which is extremely dissonant. So when we're playing that, just be careful of like brushing other strings and that kind of thing. But try to, in general, just allow those sounds to ring out as much as possible. Okay? That being said, let's go to verse 3. So verse 3 starts off. Okay, so we have, once again, this A major shape. And we're going to be playing 9 and then sliding down. It's kind of like a finger roll thing. Right? I play that again and then again before pulling off. And then I play the 4th fret, allow that to roll over into the next bar as I play the low E. And now here the melody is the open B, but I like to just strum. Okay, so it's... Okay, and then we're gonna play our B and kind of pull off to like a B sus2. Now this kind of just rings out. And then we play the familiar 2, 4, 2 open. A sus2. Okay, and then here I'm just doing a quick slide and pull off from 2 to 4. And then open. Once again, playing the second and allowing it to bleed over. Playing it again, pulling off. Right, and then here this is, you just kind of play around with it as you see fit. Once again, just kind of having that melody in your head, but we're basically playing the 4th fret, going to the 5th as we transition to the C sharp minor, and then 7 back to 5, right? Now we're gonna go back to this but it's going to be accompanied by the A note of our open A, right? Because now we're back to the A chord. This time, instead of just staying on the high E, which he actually does in the song with the melody, I just wanted to mix it up, so I pulled off there. And then the rest of this is the same. Okay, now here it's soft. So let's try to play all of that together, starting from the beginning of verse 3. Now, obviously on Guitar Pro, it's just the same tempo the whole way through, but I like to kind of slow down here, right? Slow down, control the dynamics, and kind of lower everything because this is a very like vulnerable part. And then we start with the build up, where we have 2 palm muted, just like A chords. And then we have some more harmonics, the last harmonics of the song. So it's open on the B, second, open on the high E, and then we hammer on from 2 to 4. So we actually only artificially harmonic the second along with the opening, and then we hammer on. And then we play 4-2, open 2. So there we kind of alternate 2, and then second fret of the A, and then 2 again. Okay, and then here we play basically a power chord. And then we play a power chord with the first fret of the G. And then we play basically like a shell of a B7. So now we have... Okay. And here I also like to up the dynamic with each one. So it's... And then this brings us to the beginning of the third chorus. But before we do that, let's just practice that build up. It's pretty short, but worth practicing. And now we have the final chorus, the third chorus, okay? And this one's a little bit different. The melody changes slightly. So we start with, that's familiar. That's still familiar. Now here, we have that slide, but now the melody goes high E. Okay, so we slide up, high E, and then hammer, pull off 7-5. And this is with the E now. And then we go with a slap, 5-7-9, 7, and here we're up to our E-shaped B major bar chord. That's pretty similar. Same thing. Same thing. Now instead of playing, we just play. I like to add the harmony of both of them together. And once again, just try to vibrato that. Same thing. Okay, so you already know all of that. Now, once we play, right, all this is from the same, from the second chorus. Now, we play 9th fret on the B string, down to the 5th fret. Now, when we play this 5th fret, that's when the A chord comes in. So, now we go back up. This time we're adding a harmony with the 9th fret of the G. And the harmony down here is with the 6th fret. So, once again, just filling the space. Now I'm sliding, right? 5-9 or 7-9, 7-5, and that's with the E major chord. That harmony is the same as the second chorus. Once again, filling the space. So here I'm just basically waiting for the melody to kick in because just the chords are playing. And so we have the first half of that bar just chords. And now I play 6, 4, 1, and that 1 is open. Okay, I'm leaving it open, not barring it. And now I play the same thing, but I'm gonna shift my, so on the tabs I just wrote it as I'm playing 6-3-1 next. I also like to do the 11th fret of the fourth string, excuse me. But either way, okay, so you can play, but you can also just, and now we're gonna transition to this C sharp minor 7. We're playing like this. Okay, so it's basically the same as the bar chord, but we're going to leave the high E and the B string open, and so for that reason we're gonna fret it like this instead. And that's, I'm actually just strumming, so it's like an up strum. And now we're gonna play 2, let that bleed into the next bar where we're back to our A. And now we're sliding up, open to 7, and that's where the E kicks in. And quickly slide it back down, so. Pull off with the slap. 4 open, and then we're back to our B. All right, that's familiar. We've played those 2 bars before. And then we're into the verse ending, okay? So let's try that entire third chorus. A lot of it's pretty similar, okay? Okay, now we're back to the verse ending, right? So same. Here it changes though. Okay, so that's all of the verse ending that we play. Now we're to the outro. Okay, and now we're gonna play this. We're gonna basically highlight the 4th fret of the B string, and that wants to move up, right? Like for our C sharp minor, in this case 7, once again, chord, right? I want to play that for you a little more cleanly. I'm gonna start at the beginning of the verse ending. This is what it should sound like. Right, so kind of it shifts to the 5th fret at the like last beat of that bar, and then we go back to the A, and we're going to basically finger roll on this A major 7, but we're sliding up and then back, and then I kind of ghost pick a couple of those strings there before making it around to the next bar. Right, it's kind of bleeding in. Once again, I actually play this before the bar hits, and then I'm playing the low E for the E chord that's coming in. Here I like to play something to give the full E major sound, because a lot of times you can have like this open G accidentally ring out, and it creates just some bad dissonance that you don't like. So I like to sometimes strum that, and then we're gonna do this slide thing again up to the 9th. And then once again, the 11th, but it's just going to be 11, slide down, and then pull off. And here the percussion stops, it dies out, okay? And then we're going to do the very final stuff. Let's go back to this part. And just play the outro as far as we know it now. Okay, now what you heard there was kind of the beginning of the last segment of the outro. Here we're going to hammer on 5 to 9, and then the 12th fret. So you could actually play that, but I like to just play the harmonic. And now I'm either hammering on from like 7 to 9, or I can just slide up from like 5 to 9. So sliding up and then down to the 7th, where I pull off. I'm actually not playing the open E yet. Playing that high E one more time. Here's where I play the open E, right? So it's basically like the 3rd, and then allow that to roll over, pull off, right? No percussion. right? This is where the song is dying down, so you start to slow down, you start to bring down the dynamics. Play that one more time, and then the melody goes to the open B. I like to strum, and that ends it all. Okay, we're gonna play starting at the very beginning with the metronome. Remember, we're gonna have 4 beats to count in, and then 2 beats before we actually play, right? It comes in on the 3rd beat. All right, so that's it. If you guys made it this far, then you know the entire song, at least my arrangement of it. So thanks so much for watching. I hope that you guys enjoyed this lesson. And if you have any advice on how I can make these better, I'd love to hear them. Just leave me a comment in the comment section. If you have a tutorial or a song request, go ahead and leave that in there as well. And have a great one, guys. I'll see you guys in the next video.